Hello everybody, welcome to yet another episode of On Hoop Room at Hoopsters.in, the League of Action Heroes. In our endeavor to bring you discussions on subjects less talked about, we are today in conversation with Charlotte Rosaline Soans, a renowned counseling psychologist and a certified handwriting analyst. She has been a practicing professional for over a decade and has represented India as an award recipient during the 31st Conference on Professional Issues at Denver, Colorado, United States, by Child Life Council. And today's topic of discussion is anxiety disorders. It has become very common nowadays to use words like anxiety or depression in a conversation. Okay, people use it at a drop of a hat. Do they even know what they're talking about? This, we realized, was an issue by itself. So we at Hoopsters decided to get someone to help us understand more about anxiety. And who better than Charlotte to throw some light on the myths and misconceptions around this issue. So here we go. Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks for joining us and thanks for agreeing to come on board and spend the next hour or so and talking about issues which we think is extremely important in the society we live in today. So the first question is, why did you agree to come on this show?
The topic itself drew my attention because anxiety is something which is very often seen as a factor that people come and ask for help or seek help. And this platform where if this can bring in awareness in people on what anxiety is and whether, to what certain degree anxiety is healthy and unhealthy, I guess that will make a difference in people's life.
That's interesting. Okay, so let's begin with the first basic question. What is anxiety?
Anxiety, I think it's a type of emotion. I would say a combination of many emotions like fear, fear, jealousy, hatred. We call it the primary and secondary emotions, but it's a combination of many emotions that makes you feel a little bit of, the word anxiousness. It brings in a kind of, it drives a person's, it's a driving force. Now, anxiety as I would say why I term it as healthy at some point is because it drives a person to achieve their goals. But anxiety can become unhealthy when it crosses a limit because everything has its pros and cons. So on daily basis, say for example, for an individual who's appearing for an exam, and being anxious the previous day or on the same day of the exam is quite natural. In fact, they should have this anxiety or this anxious thought because that will drive them to achieve their goal. And there has been many cases or researches done on this anxiety itself. And it is said that this anxiety is a driving force to many people's success. But it becomes a disorder when it troubles an individual for more than a duration. Say, for example, it's a constant thought of and feeling nervous about. So it impacts a person's day-to-day performance for more than a month or so. That is something which is concerning, and we term it as a disorder because a person is not able to do his or her task in a normal way.
Okay. So who is more susceptible to this? I mean, who can be affected by the disorder? I mean, anxiety is something all of us go through, right?
Yes.
But who really gets affected? When do you say this person is having a disorder?
Okay, so to make it more simplified, so it's a disorder when it is impacting someone's day-to-day routine. Say, for example, as I spoke about the earlier example of examination, which is a very common factor, and it's probably current situation now as well as it's an examination time, and we're having boards, exams or being called off or delayed. So I'm sticking on to this example. Now, when a normal individual is experiencing anxiousness or an anxiety a day before the exam, which is a completely normal behavior. It only goes up to abnormality if this particular individual has been experiencing anxiety, like say heart racing or sweating or unable to concentrate, feeling giddiness or feeling a puking sensation, or also having a headache. With physical symptoms, apart from psychological symptoms, a person is also experiencing physical symptoms for more than 1 month 2 months, or even say when 3 months before the examination, that is something which needs to be addressed. It impacts a person's day-to-day performance. The person not able to eat well, sleep, not able to do day-to-day work, procrastinates to a very larger extent, and that is something which impacts his or her performance, his or her daily routine, and that's when we recommend people to seek help.
So what really happens in the brain, in case of a person who's got anxiety disorder?
I think our brain is very simple, Bala, but we make it complicated. Because brain is just receiving all the inputs from what you observe or you anticipate. So when there is any stress given situation, there's one thing which happens is a flight or fight response. Say for example, you are walking on a road and you find you see a snake coming by. Okay, generally snake is being told to people that it's dangerous. We all run away from snake. So fight and flight responses that when you see the snake, you just run away, or either you just stand and admire the snake. It's up to a person. We have people who even admire the snake, try to touch the snake, isn't it? So it's upon an individual what happens, what kind of chemical reaction, or how they're perceiving the information in their brain. Now, brain during stress, it is just that it needs lot of blood circulation because there is something trigger button in your brain that is alarming, trying to give you an appropriate response. So all the blood circulation is passed on more to your brain to function I would say appropriately. And that's when people have sometimes BP issues. That's why they sweat. It's most often seen when for smaller kids you see stage fear, which is the most common factor in kids. When they have stage fear, if you see children, some of them tremble, some of them sweat profusely, some of them even stammer. It is all the reaction to stress.
Okay, so do you think that the upbringing and the environment that the individuals are brought up in actually influences anxiety?
To a greater extent, yes. Like we term it as nature and nurture. Nature being the biological side, which is like hereditary, and nurture is the environment. Now, with regard to anxiety, if I have to say, I would say nurture plays a major role because it's about the environment that you are at. And it's also about how you reason and think. So nurture definitely plays a greater role, according to me, in either helping a person overcome anxiety or probably gets a person into an anxiety disorder.
Like, can you give me an example of what normally happens in a normal household and where the child develops anxiety? I mean, I think examination is what everyone's worried about in life, okay? And everybody understands that.
Okay.
So if you're looking at anxiousness around exams, what would be the nurture or the nature situation?
So so here, see, nature would be the so IQ. Sometimes what they say is, as it is stated that IQ, children inherit the IQ from, it's a gene. So children inherit from their parents. Okay, but the nurture is how you help the child develop or probably say enhance the child's IQ, because everything needs a polish. Even when you buy a furniture, you ensure that there is varnish given to it, right? So even a child's brain, even a small child, like I would say, a primary school child would need that facilitation from the parents or caretakers to help the child grow. In point of examination point of view, I would say that if it is a kind of expectation that the child should do well, boundaries set for the child. If it is not the child's boundaries, if it is set by parents' expectations, it can definitely create anxiety in a child. Now, I'm not talking about anxiety disorder. I'm talking about anxiety itself. But if that lasts for a very long time, then definitely it can create some kind of mental imbalance, which can lead to anxiety disorder. Like as I said earlier, anything too much or too less is not appropriate for us, any one of us. Like say, when you cook, if you put too much of salt, you're not able to, it's not edible. If you put less salt, it's still manageable because you can always do the dressing on top. Same thing with the child. If you do give something less to the child, you can always do a little bit more to enhance that. But when you do overdo something, that becomes a difficult because we cannot erase that. It takes a very long time to erase mistakes or a faulty learning.
So when does anxiety become a disorder in terms of what's the story there? I mean, let's say I was anxious today, and when does it actually turn to be, what's happening in the brain to make it anxiety disorder?
So in that, Bala, I would say it's up to a person how mentally strong you are or how your thinking is. Because say, for example, for me, if I have to give an example in that terms, any given stressful situation will not create anxiety in me probably for, say, a year. But if it is like, say, for person B, a person undergoing stress, say, for example, say a person has lost his or her job, okay, and trying for another job. He has tried for 1 month, 2 months, and gets a job. It's like, he's getting an interview calls. The anxiety is, it's like fluctuating from the graph. Like, it's going high and then it's coming moderate. But if the person is still not able to find a job in 6 months or 7 months or 8 months, the anxiety or the stress in the person starts accumulating. It's not because what happens is it's about not getting a job, plus feeling of inferiority, low self-esteem, low confidence, what expectations from the family and the society. And most importantly, now people are concerned, majority of the cases that I have seen is worried about what people are going to think of me. I think I'm going to be judged. And that thought brings in a lot of uncertainty about themselves itself. And that creates a kind of uh, symptoms that we say is, severe cases of anxiety disorder.
So how should that person look at life? I mean, he's going through hell. Doesn't have a job, and these thoughts are entering his head. So how does he manage himself or herself?
Again, like say, if that's a case that has been referred, okay, I mean, every psychologist has a different way of dealing with it. So I would, if it's something which comes to my notice, I would definitely say is first of all, work on your area. Ensure that what job are you're trying is of your under your domain. Okay. And if it requires certain kind of enhanced learning, then certify yourself. In case a person not able to do extra, say enhancing one's knowledge, apply jobs to the shortlist companies, apply them, and don't go by the salary if you're looking for experience. Because sometimes people get confused. What is their aim at? What is their goal? For what they're looking at? Are they looking because they want a job, because they want an income? Are they looking for, say, social security or economic security? What are they looking actually for? They need to be very clear with their goals. If it is just that you want to, have a job for some time to ensure that, you can later move on in your career, then it's ideally whatever job you get, say yes to it. Especially this is for the new early people who just finish their colleges and they want to get a first job. Because the more screening you do, it gets difficult for you. Hence, first of all, know what kind of job are you looking at, and are you fit for the job emotionally and mentally? Are you ready for an interview? If you are going to be low in your confidence, low in your self-esteem, and you're doubting yourself just before even applying for a job, are you ready to go through an interview? So we generally ask them few questions which can bring about a thinking in an individual and help them reason out, because psychologists don't give solutions. We just give them options to reason their thinking, to enhance their thinking, to widen their level of thinking. Because what happens generally is when you're in the stress, your thinking ability narrows down because you're just worried about the problem. And many people who come to me, Bala, they I'm so surprised and so happy to say that people come to me not because they want a solution. They want to know what are the options available, and to cope with this difficult situation, definitely. But most importantly, people come to me because they want someone to listen and hear to their problems, which is not, which is very sad because people don't get time to listen. Everyone wants to talk. So if everyone talks, who's going to listen?
So, okay, but don't you think in case of this person who's looking for a job, how do you differentiate confuse between, say, anxiety and nervousness and fear? They are very close, right? So how does one
Yes.
understand
So
this?
if this person, because of anxiety, he or she is not applying for jobs, assuming that he or she will not clear it, that is something which is very close to an anxiety disorder. Because you're not even attempting it. It's coming in as a hindrance to your job application. So as I said, anxiety disorder is something which hinders your performance or hinders your growth. Comes on if this person not able to sleep, not able to eat well. So all these symptoms accumulates, and if it's a duration for more than 3 months, 6 months, 1 month, that is when it's something alarming for all of us. But if it is just that you have got an interview and you're worried about how you clear it, but you go back, you face an interview and you come back no matter what the result is, that is absolutely a normal anxiety. Like now, it's very often seen, like the word anxiety, um, say anxiety disorder has become a very fancy word. Like say, if I have to go for a job interview, I tell people that, oh my God, I'm experiencing anxiety. I'm having an anxiety attack. Sometimes to make it more attractive, I'll say it looks like I'm experiencing panic attack. But virtually, we don't see any symptoms.
So what's the difference between a panic
So
attack
I think
symptoms and anxiety attack symptoms?
panic attack is not, I would say, it's not a disorder. It is basically a kind of coping mechanism that is set in your body to cope with the anxiety that you're currently facing. It's just like a flight and fight response. Because when you're experiencing panic, it is just that you are trying to figure out ways to handle that given situation. So panic attack is actually setting your body to cope with that given environment.
Okay. So
But
what
again, as I said, anything too much goes above the graph, that is something alarming and which needs to be addressed.
what can cause it or trigger an anxiety attack?
Um, Again, it differs from people to people, Bala.
Again, normal
It's mostly
people watching it. What are the common ones?
that can trigger anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
Okay, it is stress. It is the kind of lifestyle an individual has, the environment around him or her, definitely the kind of food intake. As I already spoke about the lifestyle, which gets incorporated there, and also about the kind of peer group, family dynamic, past history. They all contribute to factors that can trigger anyone with anxiety disorder.
Can you tell me? You mentioned almost 8 or 10 situations. Okay. Can you give
Mm-hmm.
us a two-liner on this? Like when you said lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle?
Yes.
Family environment, what can affect? Just a couple of lines for each of the things you told me. Diet, for example.
Okay. So lifestyle, I would say, take time for yourself. In 24 hours, at least 1 hour or 2 hours, take time for yourself. Do things that you like, that can keep your mind off any negative energy or any negative emotion. Because you pile up negative emotions, they're definitely going to burst one day. It's just like, you take a champagne bottle. Before you open it, you just happily shake it because you're happy that you have a champagne in your hand. And then when you open, it's all over the place. It's just same as that. When you keep piling up negative emotions, they were going to burst some day or the other, probably in an appropriate way or in an inappropriate way. Mostly, when you keep piling, venting up negative emotions, they're going to come out in a negative form because you won't be in a condition to handle it. And that's when, you would feel what's happening to me. So take some time for yourself in a day. Do what you like to do. It could be a workout, it could be yoga, it could be talking to a friend, it could be even cooking for yourself that you like, if you like cooking, or if you like baking, if you like gardening, or take your pet for a walk, or play with your pets, and very importantly, have a family time. This is something which I generally advocate a lot. Have a family time. Family time doesn't include where you all sit and watch TV together. Family time doesn't include that you all sit and have dinner together. Family time, what I would mean is all of you sit together, switching off your mobile phones, keeping your TV off, keeping all the gadgets that can distract you away from you, and talk to one another. Know what's happening in each one's life.
Yeah. So, are there pseudo attacks? I mean, can you get into a pseudo attack? Like, this attack is not really there, but you feel it, or you think you have one.
Um, it can come because, as I said, faulty learning. People would assume that I'm undergoing and kind of anxiety. The thing is, because of everything is there in the internet, people go through it. Like say you just type anxiety disorder and you'll get a lot of symptoms. And you just have like a checklist and you keep ticking yourself into it. Like, yes, I have headaches. I have lack of sleep. I find difficulty in sleeping. I have something breathlessness. I have weight loss or a weight gain. Yes, I'm anxiety disorder. You just, self-diagnose. And that is something dangerous because you cannot diagnose yourself on any kind of disorders, especially with mental disorders. Like even for a matter of physically fit, or we all do yearly checkups, right? I would always recommend people to do something called yearly mental checkup. Just see if you have any issues. Speak to a psychologist, speak to a counselor. We all have family physicians. Have a family psychologist or a counselor because it's always important that your mind and body are in sync together.
Do we?
And if that,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry, continue. Sorry, continue.
So pseudo, having a false belief that you're having anxiety disorder is it's getting common because you self-diagnose your symptoms. And you could have a headache just because of various factors, probably your eyesight. You need to check your eyesight, or you had less of good sleep, probably more of caffeine. There could be many reasons. I won't go into that, but if you there are very much chances that people can falsely diagnose themselves if they just go by symptoms that they see in the internet.
Okay, so, but sometimes do we really overthink ourselves? Just I know people who just overthink everything, and that leads to a possibly anxious situation.
I think overthinking is like a default setting, Bala. Many of us have it. It's difficult to undo that. But overthinking comes with many reasons. Like, either a person is perfectionist, he or she wants things to be perfect, and so keeps thinking about how is this done, whether it's done right or wrong. Uh, so as I said earlier, like overthinking anything for the matter, be it overthinking, be it too happy or happiness, any kind of emotions, anything too much is always something concerning if it is followed for a very long period of time. Overthinking is definitely you're overdoing. The word itself says that. So why do you want to do it when it is over too much?
Okay. So how does one control that? Is it possible?
Um,
Is it
so if you
possible to
have
be?
time for overthinking,
Hmm.
then I think you can always make time for doing something new or you want to learn a new skill. So I would say instead of overthinking, adapt a new have hobby or adapt a new skill that can take that time of overthinking. Because idle mind is a devil's advocate. That's what they always say. And if you have time to overthink, then I think you need to add some more hobbies or interests to your plate that can help you automatically to stop overthink.
That's a smart suggestion, actually. Okay. So what really happens in an anxiety attack? I mean, let's take the smallest problem to the biggest thing. What really happens?
Okay, so an anxiety can make you feel worried. It can make you feel scared. It can cause physical symptoms like, as I said earlier, fast heartbeat, sweating, and it's generally a human's response to be anxious in certain situations. Uh, it's called a disorder when you feel anxious all or most of the time for no reason.
At what age can one start developing the disorder?
Um, so generally, it is said by studies. It's said that uh, in adults, between say less than 35 years are more prone to getting anxiety disorder. But I have seen cases of people having anxiety disorder at age of 40, 50. There could be many reasons. So it's mostly commonly seen in adults, but of late it is also seen most in adolescents.
What's the youngest uh, person you have met with an issue like this,
Um,
or even
in
heard
my
of?
career till now, I think I have seen. So anxiety comes with other disorders as well. It doesn't come just like an anxiety disorder. It comes with different other issues as well. So if I'm trying to reflect a case that has specifically more ratio of anxiety disorder, it was of a 12-year-old. So I would say an adolescent, an early adulthood.
And how do the people around that person recognize the symptoms? Okay, I as an individual might have certain ways of understanding, but what about the people around them?
Mhm.
What should they look for?
So see, if you are spending the family time, if you are getting time to your family to talk to one another, you will immediately get to know that this person is today feeling very, his or her voice tone is very low, or not interacting, or being very observant toward people around in your house. So I would say the minute you find any slightest change in a behavior of your near and dear ones, okay, be it with vocally, be it non-verbally, trying to avoid something, intake of food. Generally, it's seen that they try to avoid having food, or their quantity reduces just in rapidly, and they are unable to sleep. They're awake most of the time. They don't want to socialize. So they cut down things from their normal routine, and that is something when you feel that, talk to the person out, ask him or her what's happening in your life, because many times most of the cases can get sorted at home itself when you have time to listen and talk without being judged, without being even questioning.
And how early should it be recognized and intervened, and you seek help? Or if you don't do it early, what's the worst that can happen?
Uh, So here I would say, if you feel, say for example, if you feel that if it is about between parent and child, and you feel that your child is crying profusely throughout, every day, and is unable to sleep until he or she needs your assistance, is unable to concentrate, then and there I would say, first you try a bit of talking out, and then seek a help of a psychologist, because say I'm pretty sure that when a child is having even say 100 temperature or 101, I'm sure the parents call a physician to seek advice. Like, what can I do? What should I do? So why not in this terms as well?
Okay. But what happens if they don't intervene? What happens if, how bad can it get?
So here I can probably relate it to same example I gave. What if you ignore an individual having a temperature of 100 and slowly proceeding to 101, 102? You will definitely get panicked or worried about when it crosses 102 itself.
Mhm.
right? So the minute you feel that you're not able to, uh, say, the person not able to focus and concentrate or talk to you, seek help, because I feel at that point of time, the sooner the better, because if you delay, the symptoms will aggravate, stress will increase in a person, and more than anxiety disorder, the person might get into depression.
Okay, that's interesting. I have a friend who has a constant nagging of doom. She has this feeling all the time, 24/7, that something disastrous is going to happen. Okay, which keeps her from enjoying the present. Is that anxiety? If so, how does one deal with it?
So, could you just say more about that, Bala? You said that the person is always worried about something wrong happening,
Yeah,
or does
something
it happen?
No, nothing happens. It's just disastrous feeling, but things will go wrong.
Okay. So I would say that is a different kind of disorder, which I will not be addressing it here.
So it's not really anxiety. Would you call it anxiety?
No, see, anxiety is a starting point for many disorders.
Okay.
So in that form, see here, it's very difficult to tell us, like, like example, when to seek help. When should I seek help? We would say that, I'm just having uneasiness, I'm unable to concentrate, lack of sleep, I'm unable to sleep, I'm unable to eat well because I'm all the time worried about how this is going to work. But if you ignore this for a very long time, okay, as you said, the person is constantly worried something is going to happen bad to the person, which means it would have started somewhere, something really went wrong unexpectedly in this person's life, where he or she didn't have any control of. And after that, the past experience, the person are able to take away of, from the mind, and is in the fear of things getting more. I mean, it can happen again, or it can happen in a more severe form. Hence, a person is worried about how can I handle this situation.
I've heard from people, I remember meeting people who claim to have anxiety disorders. And one thing I was told was, do not ask the individual to get over it. It's the worst thing you can do. You can tell that person. Okay. So what should they do?
See, people would have said, don't, say, don't get over it, is it?
Yeah. No, you can get over it. Just get over it.
Okay. Yeah, because that is a very casual form of saying, it's a very casual approach. And a person who's undergoing a lot of stress or a kind of trauma, the casual approach will probably make them feel either neutral, like nothing has made them feel horrible, more worse, or it will just put them off. So sometimes it gets difficult for people to know what should I say to a person who's undergoing this stress, right? So it again depends on how the person perceives the information. Say, for example, if someone says to individual, like, just you can get over it, don't worry. It matters about the relationship between the person A and B, who is saying to this person, because sometimes we seek for assurance, and what kind of relationship you have with this person. If the person is trying to